Anton Endres, a name few outside the courtrooms of post-war Germany would recognize, stood beneath the gallows. The rope was already waiting. Cameras recorded everything. There were no speeches, no defiance, no remorse. When the hood was drawn over his head, he neither resisted nor prayed aloud. Witnesses said his expression remained blank, as if the man facing his own execution refused to acknowledge it. Moments later, the trapdoor opened. Anton Endres was gone. Yet behind that brief, silent death lay years of invisible cruelty. Endres was no battlefield butcher or blood-stained executioner. He was something far more chilling, the bureaucrat of death, a man whose pen carried as much weight as a bullet. Anton Endres was not among the infamous figures of the Third Reich. He never appeared beside Hitler, Himmler, or Goebbels in photographs. His name did not echo through the headlines of wartime propaganda. Inside the sprawling system of Nazi power, he was a shadow, one of thousands of officers who ensured that orders from above became actions below. His title, SS Totenkopfverband officer, a member of the Death's Head units, responsible for the management and operation of concentration camps. It was an administrative role on paper, but administration, in the machinery of the SS, meant life or death. Endres oversaw the flow of trains, the transports that carried men, women, and children from occupied Poland and other regions toward places like Auschwitz and Majdanek. Each transport required signatures, lists, confirmations. Every signature represented hundreds, sometimes thousands, of lives reduced to lines of ink. He approved disciplinary measures, assigned forced labor, and signed off on special treatments, a phrase the SS used to hide the reality of execution. His efficiency was his defining trait. Survivors who remembered him described a man of chilling composure. He rarely shouted. He rarely struck anyone. His violence was procedural. He gave orders with precision, then walked away before the screams began. He was polite, one survivor said. He never raised his hand. He didn't need to. That calm efficiency made him dangerous, not because he enjoyed cruelty, but because he carried it out as if it were simple administration. Inside the Nazi system, men like Endres were prized. They did not question. They did not feel. They completed tasks. When the war ended in 1945, Germany collapsed into chaos. Cities burned, soldiers scattered, and the hierarchy of the Reich dissolved overnight. For the first time in years, men like Anton Endres were free and hunted. He shed his SS uniform and became a civilian overnight. With forged documents and a new name, he blended into the ruins of post-war Germany, just one among millions displaced and starving. But paper could not erase handwriting. In the ruins of abandoned SS offices, Allied investigators uncovered boxes of records, transport manifests, prisoner rosters, disciplinary reports. Many bore the same signature, A. Endres. Forensic specialists compared them against other camp records. Survivors later confirmed the name. They remembered him from the transport yards and the administrative blocks, the quiet man who signed the orders. Within months, his trail was clear. In late 1945, American military police arrested him during a sweep of former SS personnel. He was taken into custody for questioning, still maintaining his assumed identity. During interrogation, he claimed he had done nothing wrong. He was just an administrator, he said, a man who handled paperwork, not a killer. But investigators knew better. By 1946, Anton Endres stood before an American military tribunal as part of the Dachau trials, a series of prosecutions targeting the personnel who had managed the Nazi camp system. Unlike the Grand Nuremberg trials, these proceedings did not feature high-ranking officials or dramatic speeches. They were smaller, quieter, and more intimate, but no less damning. The prosecution laid out its case methodically. Documents, memos, orders, each stamped, dated, and signed. Every piece of paper told the same story: a man who had directly authorized the machinery of suffering. The prosecutors presented lists of prisoners transported from occupied Poland to extermination camps, lists signed by Endres himself. They displayed reports authorizing disciplinary punishments resulting in death. They uncovered internal SS communications detailing Endres' supervision of medical transfers, which, in plain language, meant selections for lethal experiments or gas chambers. Witness after witness took the stand, survivors who had seen him in the administrative buildings, giving instructions in his calm, steady voice. One described the moment Endres silently pointed to a group of prisoners and said only, "They go east." Everyone in that room knew what east meant. He never raised his voice. He never struck a blow. He simply directed the flow of death. Throughout the proceedings, Anton Endres sat motionless. He listened to the witnesses, the prosecutors, and the judges, never reacting. When he spoke, it was in the same detached tone. He repeated that he only followed orders, that he had no choice, that he never killed anyone personally. But the evidence, the signatures, the lists, the survivors, left little room for doubt. The tribunal was not judging the intent of a monster. It was judging the responsibility of a functionary, a man who made atrocity possible through obedience. Historians later noted that Endres represented a particular kind of Nazi official, the faceless bureaucrat. He was not sadistic, not ideologically fervent, not visibly cruel. He was professional. He did his work well. And that was precisely the horror. His evil was not loud. It was quiet, precise, and signed in ink. When asked about the deportations, Endres replied that they were logistical transfers. When asked about the deaths, he said he had no control over the final destinations. When asked whether he ever questioned the morality of his role, he said nothing at all. It was silence, the same silence that had governed the camps, the trains, the mass graves. A silence that killed more efficiently than any gunfire. As the trial neared its end, it became clear that the tribunal was not only trying a man but dissecting a system, one built on obedience, paperwork, and the elimination of conscience. When the verdict was read, Anton Endres did not flinch. He was found guilty of war crimes and crimes against humanity. The judges listed the charges: direct participation in the deportation and extermination of civilians, authorization of forced labor resulting in death, administrative complicity in mass murder through documented orders. For each point, the evidence was overwhelming. As the sentence was announced, death by hanging, Endres simply nodded. He made no appeal. Reports from the tribunal noted his composure. While some defendants broke down, begged for mercy, or shouted denial, Endres remained still, as if the verdict were just another administrative detail. He asked for one thing: a priest. Then he returned to his cell and waited. He spoke little in his final days. Guards described him as quiet, polite, and calm, the same words that survivors had once used to describe him inside the camps. At dawn on October 15, 1946, Anton Endres was escorted from his cell to the execution chamber at Landsberg prison. The setting was clinical, just wood, rope, and witnesses. No crowds, no noise. Only the slow echo of footsteps across the stone floor. He climbed the steps without resistance. When asked for final words, he said nothing. The noose was placed around his neck. The hood followed. A moment of silence, then the sound of the trapdoor. It was over in seconds. No last confession. No declaration of innocence. Only the quiet collapse of a man whose life had been devoted to efficient death. In that still room, where the air barely moved, justice was carried out, not in vengeance, but in final acknowledgement. The silence that Endres had used to mask his crimes was the same silence that consumed him in death. The records were signed. The execution complete. Another functionary of the Nazi system, a man who never fired a shot but enabled the killing of thousands, was gone. And in the archives of post-war justice, his name became one more entry on a long list of the condemned.